I think the core of what this is I'm trying to create a sincere and authentic connection to my husband. How can I do that when I'm like playing this game of positive points and all of that stuff? Welcome to How to Glow, where we get real about building the marriage of your dreams. I'm certified coach Kayla Levin, and I help married Jewish women go from surviving and overwhelmed to thriving and connected through practical tips, real life inspiration, and more than a little self awareness along the way. Hi. Okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to name this episode, but I think we're going to call it Appreciation versus Flattery. So, hello, everyone. I'm going to start by saying I have no idea how often this podcast is coming back for right now. I'm going to check and see how much time this takes and how often we can be producing it again. But I am glad to be back, especially because I found something recently that I think articulates something so beautifully and is so critical to us really enjoying and benefiting and connecting in our marriages. And I'm very excited to share that with you today. I'll just give a quick little update before we get started over in the world of Kayla Levin coaching and all the things that I do. So we just wrapped our second of the newest round, like the newest version of the first year married course, my course for newlyweds. And it was great. It was a really nice group, and it was just exciting to see people going through it. And the feedback has come back from both groups totally like across the board. Number one by far was it's a lot of information. And it really is. It really is like it's a lot. I mean, I'd like to say that I give you like very clear, like go from step one to step two to step three to step four, and you will have a perfect marriage. Poof, you know. But the truth is, marriages are so dynamic, and everyone's husband is different, and everyone's self is different, and there's a lot of different things to cover. And another piece that came out a lot was, I know I'm going to need this, but I don't need it right now. So the biggest request was longer access. So I decided totally love the idea. And in fact, we're going to make it lifetime access. Now, for those of you not in the world, I have to say this because I didn't know this before. For those of you not so much in the world of like internet business, lifetime access doesn't mean your lifetime. You're not going to be a newlywed in 90 years. So you don't need lifetime access. But lifetime access means the lifetime of however long I'm running this course, it is now, there isn't an end of the access. Like there's no expiration on your access. It's not for a year. It's not for 5 years. It's as long as looks the way it looks. Um, I didn't know that once, and I got really frustrated at somebody who took something down that was, I bought it as lifetime, and now I look back and I'm like, oh, I was wrong. I was totally wrong. She was right. Anyway, so the course is going to be lifetime access, which I'm really excited about. I'm excited to be able to nurture more of a community of the women who've taken it. I'm excited that people who come in will be joining that community of women. I think it's so important for us to have like a really healthy growth oriented space for newlyweds to go to ask their questions and get support that's like pro marriage and pro like, hey, we can do hard things, and yes, the transition is rough, but it doesn't mean that this is a disaster. And because sometimes it can feel really hard, and we need to make sure that we're providing, yeah, again, that like really safe place for people. So I'm very excited about that. And I will probably share here a little bit of the transition. I just worked today on like all the steps it's going to take to turn this course into an evergreen course. Like right now, you can't buy it, it's not ready. And there's a lot of steps. So we'll see, we'll see how long it takes. And, the next launch was supposed to be after Pesach. So I feel like I could probably get it out by then in that new format. And I'm looking forward to that. So in the meantime, I'll be doing monthly live calls for everyone who has taken the course, which I'm also happy about. And How to Glow, which is my program, my monthly coaching program for women who've been married longer. We're doing this whole series right now on our homes and our bodies and our marriages and what was the first one? Our routines. And so that's also just been really nice. It's just it's kind of like, to me, feels like going back into some of the classic life coaching stuff, right? Like, oh wait, we do need a minute to like actually troubleshoot, to consider problems and solutions, to set goals. Like if we don't do it, we just kind of keep fumbling through life. And then we're like, why don't I like where I am? Well, because I haven't really been paying attention to how I got here. So I like doing that stuff. I think that's a lot of fun. Okay, so on to what I wanted to share today. So we've owned this book for a while. My husband read it in college. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And you've probably, everyone I feel like has seen it. Very few people have read it. I mean, that's not true. A bajillion people have read it. I mean, it's like over 75 years in print. It's a classic. Um, I'm saying the people when I talk to, usually I don't get, oh, I loved that book. I get, yeah, I know about that book. um, and it's really blowing me away in how um, focused on personal development it is, because the title, How to Win Friends and Influence People, sounds so completely superficial. And the chapter I want to talk about today is called Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. I'm just going to read you a couple things that he says. So he starts by talking about the importance of letting people feel important and, inspire, like giving appreciation and talking people up and noticing their good points. And then he makes this clarification. He says he's not talking about flattery. Flattery doesn't work. So what he says is, in the long run, flattery will do you more harm than good. Flattery is counterfeit, and like counterfeit money, it will eventually get you into trouble if you pass it to someone else. The difference between appreciation and flattery, that is simple. One is sincere and the other insincere. One comes from the heart out, the other from the teeth out. One is unselfish, the other selfish. One is universally admired, the other universally condemned. I'll share a little bit more about this, but I want to start by saying why I'm bringing this up. So, one of the things that I think many women hear in marriage courses is your husbands need positive feedback. They need, I talk about it like your face is the lights on the scoreboard. I think that's from Alison Armstrong. Like, you glowing, like if he does something and you're glowing, then he's gonna feel, that's not really what glowing means and how to glow, but if you have that, like that enthusiasm, that excitement, that smile on your face, he's gonna feel like $1,000,000. It's more gas in his tank. He's got more to give back to you. And I've heard it from so many different marriage people. I've heard it from men. I've heard it from women. And there's two objections that I most often get when people are trying to incorporate this idea of trying to be more, complimentary towards their husband, notice their husband doing good. Number one is it feels very fake, right? So, like, I recently had someone say to me, I feel like I'm talking to a 7-year-old boy when I'm like, oh, hey, good job, honey. Like, come on, he's an adult. Like, it feels very, very fake. And number two is it shouldn't be necessary. Like, why? What's wrong with men that they need all of this like boosting? Like, is their ego so pathetic and small? I mean, sorry to say it that way, but that's kind of how the question feels, is like, what's wrong with them that they need like all this pumping up? Like, can't we just like live our lives like this? Just both of them, as you can hear, they both kind of come from this place of like, this isn't feeling sincere. I think it's a really, really important objection. I don't want to like push it away. It's not to just get over it. Yes, sometimes we have to do things that feel a little uncomfortable because we're just not used to a certain behavior. But I think the core of what this is I'm trying to create a sincere and authentic connection to my husband. How can I do that when I'm like playing this game of positive points and all of that stuff? So I think what he's offering here is a very different approach to the same idea that I think is really solves for both of those questions, which is we look at this primarily as part of human nature. Humans like to be acknowledged. We are designed to need acknowledgement and affirmation and to feel valuable, especially to the people that matter the most, not to make it this like quirk of male psychology that like they need it. That's number one. And number two, which we've done before, I don't know if we've done it on the podcast. I've certainly done this in my coaching, but I think he even like articulates it even more so, which is consider it part of your own personal development, your mitos development, becoming a person who gives kavod, who gives respect to others, becoming a person who respects and admires and notices the good and is grateful is actually part of building yourself as a person. And a great person is one who doesn't struggle to find a way to respect someone else, right? So I kind of had the end goal in mind, but I think he articulates it really well. So I'm going to read a little bit more from what he says here. So he writes, if all we had to do was flatter everyone, everybody would catch on, and we should all be experts in human relations. When we're not engaged in thinking about some definite problem, we usually spend about 95% of our time thinking about ourselves. Now, if we stop thinking about ourselves for a while and begin to think of the other person's good points, we won't have to resort to flattery so cheap and false that it can be spotted almost before it is out of the mouth. One of the most neglected virtues of our daily existence is appreciation. Somehow, we neglect to praise our son or daughter when he or she brings home a good report card, and we fail to encourage our children when they first succeed in baking a cake or building a birdhouse. Nothing pleases children more than this kind of parental interest and approval. Okay, so I want to go back to what he's saying here. If we stop thinking about ourselves for a while and begin to think of the other person's good points, we won't have to resort to flattery so cheap. What is really going on is that I think what's happening is we're trying to become this like positive, appreciative, wow, honey, you're amazing. We're trying to get that across. And unfortunately, sometimes we're trying to get that across because we've been sold on the effect of that. Oh, when you do all those things, then he'll be great. Then he'll really show up for you. The shift I want you to make is it's not, I'm going to notice, I'm going to help my husband, I'm going to treat my husband like a hero so he'll become one. It's I'm going to find out how he's already a hero and let him know. Because as a human, not as a man, as a human, that is what brings out the best in us. I had this experience when I taught second grade. When I taught second grade, my oldest, I think, was in kindergarten. I didn't have such a sense of what second graders should really be able to do. And teaching in a private Jewish school, often they were not in line necessarily like with all of the standards. So for instance, in the class that in the school that I taught in, the kids were way more literate than the average, right? Like they read way more. A lot of them had very limited screen time. So just going by like the national, like what's a second grade standard, that wasn't really what was going to help guide me. And so for the first couple years that I taught second grade, my students in some areas, I'm sure I messed up in other places. I'm not trying to make it sound like I was the best teacher on the planet, but my students really excelled. And looking back, I think the only reason was it didn't occur to me that they shouldn't be able to do that. Because having a kindergartner, I think maybe she was even still in preschool, second graders seemed like high schoolers to me. They seemed really, really big. Right now, they're tiny babies, but now that I have a 14-year-old, but at the time they seemed huge. And it just didn't occur to me they shouldn't be able to do these things. There was no fanfare. There was no trying to get them to strive for a goal. I just figured they could do it, and they could very, very often. And I think that's, a piece that we have to see is that there's so much research. I don't know if you've seen, there's like this study um, about teachers. So teachers were given a certain random selection of students from their class, and they were told that these kids are gifted. And at the end of the year, those kids had made more progress than the other students. This has been replicated over and over again, this study. Okay. The way we see someone, the part of them that we notice is what comes out to shine. That is just human nature. Again, not some weird guy quirk. And the work isn't in focusing so much on what's the thing in him that I need him to do more of. Okay, so my husband's really disorganized. Let me go find the one place where he's organized and I'm going to make a whole party about it so then he'll become an organized person. Maybe your work is to just accept that you're married to an unorganized guy. Like it might not be that your work is to train him like a puppy, right? But really, what the work is to say, I want to become a person who has more appreciation. I want to be a person who acknowledges the good in people. I want to be someone who shines back the best in other people so they feel amazing about themselves. By the way, you might need to do some other stuff to be able to be in that place. If you're feeling completely like a schmata and you're falling apart, then it's very hard to be in that space. It's possible. It's very hard. I want to acknowledge that. But if that's our headspace, like he's saying in this book, I don't need to lay it on thick. I don't need to go looking for things my husband's doing well. I don't need to stretch myself to compliment him. I really am acknowledging that was cool. You just did something. I couldn't have done that, or I really appreciated that. That really made a difference in my day. Or you thought to do that thing and you didn't need to. And I feel really, I feel really grateful that you did that. It's so much more natural when it's coming from an authentic appreciation, an authentic noticing. And so that's the work we want to be doing. The work we're doing is with our eyes. It's not with our mouths, right? It's with what am I seeing? What am I paying attention to? Yes, they're right when they say if you compliment your husband more than like he might, they're right that that is how it works, but only when it starts at the right starting place. When it's starting at this place of, let me help mold him. So, like he's saying, it's like you can feel it coming a mile away. It feels so mechanic. And I'm so grateful to the women who've pushed back on this because I feel like we're able to clarify this even more and even deeper. So I'm giving this to you as homework for now. It, by the way, you could do it everywhere, right? Like you could do it with like, I don't know, your house. Like I'm so grateful for the person who wired all this electricity and I have, right? I wouldn't know how to do that, right? The more that we just train ourselves to notice the things that we have to be grateful for with Hashem, with our parents, with our siblings, with our children, with our husbands, of course, the more naturally that becomes the way we're expressing ourselves because we're just, when we open our mouths, we're expressing our inner reality. So our inner reality starts to shift. And I want to just sort of, I guess, leave one piece, which I think is very unique, in a way is unique to marriage, which is that this is the place where a person can feel more seen than anywhere else in the world by any other person in the world. Because nobody will ever connect to you like your spouse. And I think it's something very powerful to work towards. It's something very worthwhile to work towards, even if it feels very far away. I want to be the person who sees my husband fully. I want him to have that experience in life. No one can give that to him like I can. And that means I'm not closing my eyes to his weaknesses. I'm seeing the whole picture and I'm finding what to be appreciative for. I'm still finding what to be to respect in that. It's an incredible thing you have to offer. Okay, so that's your homework. I would love to hear how it goes. You can shoot me an email if you're in the community, post in there. And hopefully I'll be back soon. We'll see how long this production time takes this time around. Um, I don't know. Maybe just get ads and have someone produce it for me. We'll see. Well, figure it out. All right. Love to all of you. Mwah. Appreciate all of you. Have an amazing rest of your week or longer, if that's what it takes. Bye.
The First Year Married course is back. It's better than ever, and it is open right now. If you have been waiting to join First Year Married, now is the time. You now have access for the lifetime of this program, to the classes, to our community, to my monthly Q&A calls. So don't wait. There is so much waiting for you inside of there. Go over to kaylalevin.com/newlywed, and you can start the moment you sign up. Can't wait to greet you inside of that program. Thanks so much.